Hello everyone, today we're going to, as you already know, look at trigonometry in more detail and look at some of the examples and its application. We already looked at one with the usage of the function sine to calculate one of the opposite sides. If you haven't checked that out, do check that out, it's very helpful. And today I'm just going to whiz over this example again, which is again fairly straightforward. Here we've got a right angle triangle and we want to find out the longest side of the triangle. This is called the hypotenuse. Again, the best way to go about this is to first label the triangle. So in this case, this would be hypotenuse, and this would be the opposite, but think about it, we haven't got any sort of information about the opposite, and we're not really that bothered about the opposite as well. We want to find out the hypotenuse, so there's no point labeling that. It's good if you want to, and it's fine if it helps you, but there's no real utility in that. And this is the adjacent, since this is the side adjacent to the angle, next to the angle, so we just label this adjacent. Okay, and now you go back to your SOHCAHTOA. You look for what combinations you can actually use with those functions. So in this case, we've got sine. It requires opposite and hypotenuse. We don't know the opposite, so we can't use that function, even though it does revolve around hypotenuse. There's no point because we need the opposite. Then we look at cos. It says adjacent and hypotenuse, and turns out we do have a perfect match over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the trigonometric function cos. So what we do is cos theta. We always apply it to a particular angle. In this case, we know what the theta angle is. It's 30. Cos theta equals, if we go back to our mnemonic, it's adjacent over the hypotenuse. So it's going to be 10.5 over the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is something that we want to find out, so we just label it as it is. And then we just rearrange to make that subject, and that is 10.5 over cos 30. And if you just plug that into your calculator, you get 12.12 centimeters, if this is in centimeters, but in this case we haven't been given any sort of units, so just leave it as it is, 12.12. So the hypotenuse along the side will be 12.12 centimeters using trig. Alright, now moving on to another example, would be, let's say we don't want to find out the hypotenuse, but we want to find out the opposite with the assistance of the adjacent. So let's say in this case we've been given the adjacent, but we want to find out the opposite. How do we do that? We just follow the same methodical procedure really. Just label the triangle first. In this case I've already done so. That's the opposite, that's the adjacent, and the opposite is what you want to find out. Then you go back to your mnemonic, sine, cos and tan, so SOHCAHTOA, and if you look at sine, it requires opposite and hypotenuse. We want to find out the opposite, but we haven't got the hypotenuse, so that's useless. Cos, we look at adjacent and hypotenuse. Adjacent we have got, but the hypotenuse we haven't, and we're trying to find out the opposite, so that's completely useless. Then we move on to tan, which is opposite and adjacent. Opposite and adjacent, it's a perfect match, so we use the function tan in this case. And as mentioned countless times before, we always apply these functions to angles. So tan of 30, this is the way we write it, the function tan of 30, and we place the brackets in whatever we're tanning or cosing or sining, so to speak. So we've got tan of 30 equals, if we just read it off there, opposite over adjacent. Opposite, something that we want to find out, so we just write it as it is, opposite over adjacent. Adjacent is 10.5, and just rearrange to make opposite the subject, which is tan 30 times by 10.5 equals, let me just plug that into the calculator, 1030 times by 10.5, and that gives you 6.06 again, centimeters, if that's what it's given to you. I'll write that more clearly, 6.06 centimeters, meters, or whatever. And yeah, so that is the opposite. That equals the opposite. So that's as complicated as it gets, really. In the next video, we're going to look at how to figure out missing angles from two sides given to you. So hopefully that was helpful. Thank you.